Let's get after it. Ryan Braves, my pleasure to welcome you to the show today. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So just quick, we always splice this stuff in, but as a quick intro, you are the founder behind Ascension by Design. You're a serial entrepreneur, husband, father of three young ones. So we got a lot of stuff in common here. We're on similar paths of uplifting men. I love how you call it ascension, but reading a little bit from your website here that you're here to give everything of yourself to your family, teach your boys to be amazing men, and lead other men to incredibly fulfilled lives, personally and financially. That's a big mission, but I love it.
You nailed it, man.
Nailed it.
One day at a time, too, for sure.
One day at a time. Absolutely. Hey, maybe if we dive in a little bit on, you're a serial entrepreneur. I have so much respect for that. We all know what it takes to be, what we call quote unquote successful in business. And I know you talk about this in terms of we pursue what is prescribed to us, or we think society prescribes. And then one day we might look around and go, what happened to the passion in my relationship, or what happened to the balance in my family versus did what I thought I was supposed to do, right? Go out and build and provide and bring it home, breadwinner. But somehow I ended up out of balance. If we're all ultimately here to maybe solve problems or alleviate pain, what's the pain or the problem you see most in the men you work with?
I think it's a negative cycle, man. I think when you start making more money, then you have to feel like you have to keep earning more money. And then a lot of people trade time for money. So they're just putting more and more time in. And yes, they're earning more money, but it's a downward spiral. So if you can't figure out how to inject some team in there to leverage time and to carve out time for the more important things, then I think you will turn around, as you said, in 5, 10, 15, 20 years and be like, damn, I lost out, on the thing that I can never get back, which is time.
Time. Yeah, I was telling you off air, my son's 13. I was trying this concept out on him recently. You're getting, as a young man, you start to go like, oh, I want to earn money. I want to spend money. I want to have the power that, money gets us experiences or things or whatever we can trade it for. And so I was trying this concept out on him, which is money is just energy, right? It's a renewable resource. Mm-hmm. But it's a form of energy we exchange because we have to do something to realize or store energy in this form that we're going to call money. And then we exchange it for something else, right? And that was made or given by somebody else's energy. So I love that concept of leverage in all this, because I can go back and talk to him about, well, how do you leverage better use of your time into creating that energy that we're going to call this thing for now money.
For sure. Yeah, man, it's a team. When I started in business, like I was a personal trainer, so I was training people. I was training people one-on-one, an hour of my time for X amount of dollars. And then when you get really busy with that, it's like, great, I have no more time to earn more money. So then you could charge more money, right? So then I did that, but it still wasn't getting me to this certain amount of money that I wanted. So then I started to do groups. And that worked out fairly well, right? But then I could only train so many groups in the time that I had. So then I started to train other people to train groups. And it was just this evolution. And then what's really weird is I did that so well as a trainer. And then I owned a health and wellness business. And then I got involved in franchise businesses. And then I was just having employees work for me, but I wasn't building a team and I wasn't building culture. So we had such high turnover that I ended up having to work more than I thought I was going to, because I never built culture. So when I say build a team, having other people do things for you is really important, but also keeping the right team in place for a period of time is what buys you true freedom, because then you have highly skilled people doing what you need them to do to free you up and give you what you want, which is time and money.
That's such a great point. I know you talk about in what you do now, similar concept, more than just the physical domain, but working in finance, fitness, and family, but probably similar concept around a business model. But you talk about passion and purpose. So when you say culture, is it making sure that there's alignment in purpose and passion within a team?
1,000%. So in any business, where I have people that work for me or with me, they have to believe in what we do. Because they can only sell snake oil for so long before they either get burnt out or they're not fulfilled themselves. So literally, whatever business it is, when we bring people on, when we onboard them, we tell them exactly what we do, why we do it, how we help people. And if that resonates with them, great, we take the next step. If it doesn't resonate with them, it's okay. We'll help them find another job somewhere else. It won't be on our team, because you need to have passion if you're to transfer that energy to be able to sell someone on something and then have them actually believe in the mission which they're giving you their money for. So it's super important for a team to believe in that.
Yeah, I can see where, just looking at some of your videos, a lot of passion comes through and a lot of transparency and authenticity. Are you, so I think, don't know if this is dated or not. One of your videos mentions you're around 38 years old. Do you,
I turn 39 next week.
all right. Well,
so a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. Well, happy birthday in advance. Do
Thank
you
you.
find, so in terms of that energy and that passion, that connection, do you tend to find that you're working with people in sort of a similar place in life, that maybe they're on that character arc,
So
and they're hitting
it's
a dip,
really
but they're
funny.
not so sure?
Yeah, it's really funny. So everyone always asks, like, who do you work with? And I'm like, I work with a slightly younger version than myself. Like I was that person. I was the person who failed in business. I was the person who wasn't spending time with my wife. I was the person, when I had kids, I was like, I'm gonna just be the provider, and I'll let my wife take care of it. So everything that I work with people on is things that I've been through, and I think it's so important. I'll tell you, you mentioned it before. Transparency is everything. Openness, honesty, and transparency is everything. Like literally, when you take sales courses, like I've taken so many sales courses. I've taken so much coaching and mentorship. And early on, like literally going back like 8, 10, 12 years ago when I did it, I was taught to learn a script. And if that's not authentic to you, it's only going to get you so far. When you could be totally honest and transparent with whomever your client is and leave it all on the table, it's the most beautiful thing in the world, because you have nothing to worry about. You could be exactly who you want to be, and that will connect with someone more so than anything else. It's the most freeing thing in the entire world. And I'm like that with my kids. I'm like that with my wife. I'm like that with any and every person that I deal with. And it's the most amazing, freeing thing ever, literally. So I wanted to make it,
Yeah, thank you. No, there's a lot of power in that. So so let me ask you, like, let's get a little transparent here. I had a guy I was working with recently sort of made a comment along the lines of, oh man, you're at this place or you're doing that. And I just said, hey, look, dude, we're all on a path. Sure. Right. And we may just be on different places on the same path, or we're on our individual paths or strengths and weaknesses. Right. And so in terms of being a good coach and role model, mentor, I mean, every coach should have coaches, right? We've all got further room to grow. So you talk very authentically, openly, transparently about some of the stuff you weren't doing the way you wanted to in the past.
Yeah.
Right. Had to kind of course correct. But nobody's perfect. We're all still growing. This idea of self-mastery that I talk about all the time, it's a never-ending journey. So I mean, like, what's most screwed up in your life right now that you're still working on? So people go like, yeah, I want to work with Ryan Braze because I connect to what he screwed up in the past and had to fix.
Sure.
But in all honesty, what's screwed up now, or where are you developing now yourself?
So this is the reality. So I spend a tremendous amount of time with my kids, a tremendous amount of time. Like for whatever reason, I put my kids to bed every night, right? And my oldest son is 4, so I'll just talk about him for a second. So he wants me to put him to bed, right? And then every time before he goes to bed, he gives me a hug and a kiss. And I literally have in my head this clock of there's only going to be like 1,600 more of these. Like I've thought out, like he's only going to want to do this maybe till he's 10, and then he might not want to do that anymore. So I have that in my mind. So with that being said, I don't spend as much time with my wife as I should. Now, I carve out time, we connect, but I should be even more intentful about that. especially right now, because I try to spend individual time with each one of my kids every single day. And my wife has definitely been catching the short end of that stick lately. So we're doing a sushi night tonight.
Nice.
I'm trying to make up for it a little bit. So yeah,
No,
right now I'd say that balance is a little bit off for sure, but I'm working on.
nice.
I'm conscious of it, so I think that's important too.
That's so much of the journey, right? Is awareness,
Sure, sure.
right? And then, hey, but I appreciate the honesty,
Yeah,
right? We talk about balance, but balance is fleeting, right? It's
yeah.
always being readjusted.
Correct, correct.
I think if you know Ryan Mickler, Order of Man, it might have been him that I saw put something out not too long ago of, you're going to look back and someday was the last day you ever carried your boy or your child.
So it's really funny. Just to say something really quick, I was in the food store probably about 2 years ago, and there was two families ahead of me, and the first one in line, her daughter kept saying, "Mommy, can you just hold me? Mommy, can you hold me?" And she's like, "No, no, I'm not right now, not right now, not right now." And the woman in front of me, behind them, she was a little bit older, and then she said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm just watching and listening now." She says, "Hey, I'm sorry to butt in," to the woman who was in the front of the line. And the woman kind of turned around and she's like, "Yeah, can I help you?" And she's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, but I have to say this. I know your daughter wants you to pick her up. I know you're busy, but there's going to be a time really soon where she'll never ask you to do that again." And I was like, "Oh," like, and that literally was a shift for me. So now, like, I have again a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-month-old. So I'll be carrying all three of them up the stairs because I'm like, it could tonight be the last night. So
Yeah.
I really think about that on a daily basis, that I know my time is running out with certain things. So I try to just really live in that moment every single day.
It's amazing. Yeah, that stuff, as a parent, it just strikes you right in the heart, right?
Yeah.
And you're in a place where you got a lot of years ahead with the children. You talk about working with guys that are maybe slightly younger or behind you on the journey, or the timing, right? And I mean, if we put this in terms of a business context, right? Great, you figured it out quite young, and as your children are quite young. But if somebody is still growing their business versus, hey, I grew my business and I screwed up some stuff that I did in terms of allocating time to my family. How about somebody that's just now maybe growing the business and trying to grow a family? How would you do both at the same time?
So I know this might sound weird because I am a coach, but if you don't have a coach, you need to get a coach. There was way too many years where I didn't do that. I was like, I'm not spending the money on that. I'll figure this thing out. But the whole thing of coaching is to collapse time. People say, okay, just what did that person do? And then be able to do it in a shorter period of time, because you'll be able to do it without a coach. That's the reality. You will be able to figure it out and grind it out. It just will take a longer period of time. So if someone's, upfront growing a business, or they're, just in the early phases, getting a coach to just get that time condensed is super important. And then being very efficient with time, like really mapping out what your day looks like the night before and just being very efficient. And then also planning family, not like you plan business meetings, plan family meetings. So for me, a mentor and a coach, I maybe going back 5 or 6 years ago at this point, had said, like, when it's November or December for the year ahead, you start to plan your marketing calendar. So what you're doing the first quarter, where you're speaking, where you're having meetings, what campaigns and programs you're launching. And then they said, okay, and then the first quarter comes and the second quarter comes, and then you go, oh shit, I didn't take a family vacation. Let's get something on the calendar. He said, instead, reverse it. So now what I do in the second week of December is I literally give my wife a calendar, 12 sheets of paper, January through December. And I'm like, hey, here, wherever and whenever you want to go away for however many days in a given shot, just write it on the calendar, and then I'll figure everything else on the back end. So the family is the priority, and then I'll figure out how to create the lifestyle to support that after that. So that's in, and then the business comes next.
So good. So good. The only thing I'll say is I think the first time we did that as a family, planning a year ahead on time away, was 2020. And then I don't know what happened in the world. So we got
we had 5 trips canceled. 5. That burned me up. Yeah.
We're a little gun shy now about putting stuff back on the calendar.
I know.
Eking back into it. But I love that, right? Family first. And like, especially in business, we're calendar driven. So why not be calendar driven from a family perspective and collapse it all the way down to what your day looks like?
Yep.
Right? Make sure you got time carved out to connect with the family, and then fill in the business and the other stuff around it.
And one more thing on that too. For me, the people that work with me and for me know that that's a priority. So I'll just give you one quick example because I think it's funny and it's interesting at the same time. So sales calls, right? Like a lot of people, when they get a sales call, it's like, I'm going to take the sales call, and if it goes longer, I'm trying to make money. So whatever else can get pushed off. So my girls know that the last call I'll take or the last meeting I'll have is at 6:15. That's it, because then like that takes about a half an hour, and then I'm on to the last part of my day, which is my family. So one of the girls that works for me is like, "Hey, listen, I scheduled someone for 6:45. They said that's the only time they had available." I'm like, "That's the only time they had available, huh?" She's like, "Yeah." So I scheduled them. I'm like, "No problem." I'm like, "Do me a favor." I literally gave her my phone, and she's like, "What am I doing with your phone?" I said, call my wife, jump on the phone with my son, Blake, who is like 3.5 at the time. And I was like, "And tell him daddy won't be home tonight." And she's like, "So you want me to call your son and tell him that you're not going to be home?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So she did, right? And then she never scheduled a late call again. So I really have set those boundaries that I do not push over, because again, the family comes first. My family is what allows me to do a really good job in business. And I don't think it's the other way around. I think if you have the family foundation first, that will enable you to be more successful in business.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Unfortunately, we aren't necessarily taught that, most of us.
No, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
And culturally and what we see,
100%.
Film, TV, whatever it is. And a lot of people don't learn it, right? Or learn it the hard way, or recognize it through tragedy, and maybe even don't know how to fix it, continue to perpetuate. I love that story you just told. And I think I ran into that a little bit. We scheduled this somewhat late in the day, and I pushed it by an hour.
We're still good. That's why I said, okay.
Yeah, we're still good. But your staff had to check with you. Right?
Sure.
They did. Sure. They said, "I think so, but not sure." So no, I super respect that. And in terms of the importance that you place and I place on trying to get better at ourselves. It's funny how we'll invest in a business, but we're hesitant to invest in ourselves, right? Through coaches. And I've invested, since I started this journey, in real intensity over the last 6 or 7 years, ridiculously, in growing myself to be a better version. And how do we forget, right? A lot of us come from competitive backgrounds. Like, how do we forget the value of a coach and investing like we would in a business?
For whatever reason, it falls by the wayside. And I think this is important. If you have a second, I'll
please.
When I started, like, in my entrepreneurial career, roughly 14 years ago, right off the bat, I started making good money, or what I thought was good money back then. Right, I had my first month; it was the most money I ever made, $7,000, and I was like, "Okay, this is cool." My bank account finally went up, and then what I literally did was I started to invest in everyone else's ideas. I was like, "Okay, you have a good business idea. Here's money. Stock market. Here's money. Someone wants to sell me a piece of real estate. Here's money. Franchises. Here's money." And I was betting on everybody else. I was earning money, but I was literally giving it away to everybody else, because I was like, I'll hit a single here. Well, needless to say, not one of those things worked out. Not one. I lost everything. And I had this moment where my wife and I got married in 2014 out in California. I was talking to you about it before. And we had a beautiful wedding because I wanted to make sure I gave her the wedding that she like dreamed of. So it was in Laguna Beach, like at the Monarch Beach Club, like incredible, just amazing wedding. And after the wedding, I checked my bank account balance. It had $3,000 in it, and we were getting back from California on Monday, and I was like, shit. I had the office rent due. I had the apartment we were living in due, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do at this point. And that's the point in time where I started to invest in myself. So I went out on a credit card, hired my first coach, $18,000 there. Then I spent $32,000 on a public speaking coach. And then I just literally went on this journey and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaching and mentorship for myself. And I was like, okay, I'll bet on myself. And that's really how I've always won going forward. It's like I bet on myself, improved, and then moved forward. So I think it's very powerful.
Oh, I love that. Super powerful story. And it makes so much sense, whether you think about it, if we go back to energy, to get to realize, you have to give, you have to first project and serve in how you want it to return to you. And same in this sense, right? In a literal sense, by investing in yourself and getting better at yourself. I mean, multiplicity in return,
Yes.
I'm sure, the 10X, the 20X factor.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
It's
That's super
painful
cool.
in the moment, though.
Right.
You're like,
Right.
another course.
Right. Right. No, it's true. But I mean, we invest in school,
Mhm.
we invest in our children, we invest in businesses, we invest in real estate, we invest in, as you said, a lot of times it's everybody but ourselves. So
Yeah.
so important. Thank you for bringing that up. The other thing I guess I wanted to ask on this same line of the critical importance we place on teaching our children to be better adults than maybe we were at that age.
For sure.
And so not only growing ourselves, growing the next generation, why that's so important to make it better, but maybe break cycles as well. And we go back to like what we were taught and how we were taught. And I noticed some of your bio, pretty rough parenting sort of background, and I got some rough stuff. We all got baggage, right? We all got trauma. We all got shadows. But in particular, I had some forthright conversations with my dad recently. Looking back, so he was my parents divorced. They had an unhealthy relationship for a long time. Divorced. When they separated, walked out of the house. That's the last time my brother's ever spoken to him, or vice versa. He disappeared for 30 years effectively. And so we were having this conversation recently about like what was going on there. And he was this guy, like he could have used Ryan Braves 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Addictions to work, right? It's kind of what we're talking about here is being so far out of balance that effectively we're addicted to working as this excuse of I'm providing, but it's avoidance behavior and lots of other things, including alcohol. And so I started diving into this thing around ACA, adult children of alcoholics. And you start reading the symptoms of that, and it's like, oh, that's some scary shit that's showing up here, right? So, and now I'm sort of go back to awareness, ultra aware of, man, how do I break those patterns or make sure I'm breaking those patterns, and lead by example for children. So, I mean, do you think about that same thing? Tell me about your past. Let's bring that out a little bit.
Every day.
Yeah.
So my mother, she is still, unfortunately to this day, an alcoholic and a drug addict. And then my father, he suffers from clinical bipolar disorder and manic depressive disorder. So childhood was not easy. They divorced when I was super young. And then it was just like, I mean, my house was the most unsettling, not peaceful house ever. And from a very early age, I was like, I need to do everything. So that's not me, number one. And then when I got married, my wife and I were talking about, the idea about having kids. And I was like, listen, like I told you about my background, but we need to do this the right way, because like I will never raise a kid anywhere remotely close to how I was raised. Like I want them to grow up in a loving, peaceful, like harmonious environment. So that is a conscious effort every single day. Like I am insanely focused on that from a multitude of aspects. Like when my mother remarried my stepfather, I mean, he pretty much lived with me, like, I would say from age 3 to 18. He never said, I love you. And that's okay. I mean, I wasn't his kid, but I tell my kids I love them probably 100, this is no exaggeration, 100 times a day. So I parent the exact opposite of how I was parented. And every single day, it's a focused effort for me every day.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, I applaud the awareness to go into that with, by design and with your wife as a partner and make it different. It's the only way to resolve it, right? Otherwise it repeats.
Yeah. And just looking at the world right now, like social affairs and economic affairs, and just the state of where we are, I truly believe that 95% of it can get fixed in the home. That's it. Okay. Instead of looking at it at the president, the pope, a principal, whomever, instead of looking out this way, if we just turned around and looked inside of our home and just focused like what was happening in the four walls, I'm just going to focus on my kids. I'm just going to focus on my significant other. 95% of all problems will be solved. Right. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. But we're so as a community, as a country, we're so focused on what someone else is doing for us or to us instead of what we could be focused on, which is our family, in my opinion.
I'm with you. Start with yourself, make yourself better, happier, and then within those four walls, yeah, I mean, it would do so much good. And then collectively, how we could come together as a community, as a world, more powerfully, yes, would be amazing. What about in terms of fitness? I know you talk about finance, fitness, and family, and family by far the most important. Finance is always going to work itself out, right? You can always find a way to provide, to be happy, to pivot. In terms of fitness, I know you come from an athletic background, and I love to stay active. That tends to be one we all want to work on. I want to get stronger. I want to put on muscle. I want to lose weight. I want to be more energetic. So to me, it's a great entry point for a lot of people. It's a great way to start working with someone, and it's a great way to measure and see improvement. Moreover, although it kind of starts at the surface level, to me, like, that one is so fundamental. We've got to be healthy. We got to feel good. We got to have that energy to show up the way I think we want to for our family and in our careers.
Well, 1,000. I mean, you said it right there, right? If you're out of shape and you've lost your health, there is no focusing on anything else, right? If you're in debilitating pain, if you're suffering from sickness or disease, how can you then focus on a business? It's impossible, right? If you're not feeling like yourself, whether it's in pain or suffering with a disease, how can you focus 100% on your family? It's impossible. And we could be super self-responsible and take that into our own control. So it's actually really easy to change the direction of our lives when it comes to our health, because we can control so much of it. Again, it's another misnomer, or we're misled. We're taught to believe that someone else is in control of our health, right? The medical system's in control of our health. Our health insurance company's in control of our health. Whoever is, in politics is in control of our health. If you just take that responsibility upon yourself and start making some fundamental, simple changes, you turn around in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you've taken the reins. And to your point, you can see it, you can feel it. And that's where momentum starts to come in. And that's how, that's why, fitness really is one of the biggest foundations, because you can start to move everything else in the right direction when you have more energy and you feel better, and then you can see it. You have higher levels of confidence and certainty. So I think it's to your point, I think that is the foundation of the building, so to speak.
It is. Yeah. It's such an unfortunate, not to head, completely down this rabbit hole, but such a missed opportunity in this 1.5 year long supposed pandemic of, we all want to stay healthy. We want our loved ones to be healthy and alive and thriving, but we haven't spent much time at all talking about what health really means, what proactive health and fitness mean, attacking problems like obesity and heart disease and diabetes and all these things that are just terribly dangerous underlying conditions, whatever the macro environment is in the world.
It makes me want to run right through this window right here. It's it's crazy because it's so it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's simple. And if we're going to brainwash people with anything nowadays, if we brainwash them with that simple principle, they can move so much further. So it's a definitely a foundational thing that I work at with any and all of my clients, even those that are fit. We want to be able to push them further, right? Because that will also build your mental toughness, be able to push through barriers and whatever it is you're working on. If you could push the barrier in one area, then why not be able to push it in another area? And then fitness is just easy because we can control that, like in our own environment. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll just to play that back a little bit, the way I heard that last part there. So we were talking off air about Spartan Races, or if you're like a Ryan Holiday fan at all, his book "The Obstacle Is the Way." You know, these obstacle races, those obstacles are metaphors for life, right? Because we fail all the time, right? So to me, the only failure really is quitting or just not starting, maybe out of fear of failure. But failure is such a learning tool. So I look at my son. We went to race Spartan in Hawaii a couple of years ago,
Oh, awesome.
and just awesome environment to do it in. And he's pretty competitive. He top ranked in the world for his age group a couple of years ago,
Awesome.
and he felt so great going out day one there in Hawaii on Saturday. He and another kid were running neck and neck in the front of the pack, and he gets to like an early obstacle, second or third obstacle in the race, and it's a vertical rope climb. And we've got one at home to practice on. He nails this thing all day long. This is a strength for him. And for whatever reason, on that day, on that obstacle, he couldn't get up it. And he tried again. He couldn't get up it. And he had to do burpees. And while he did burpees, the other kid ran away from him with, maybe a commanding lead. And my son just like jogged it out for the rest of the race. So we talked about it afterwards and was like, what was going on there? You quit on yourself, right? You don't know, that kid might have failed the next obstacle and you caught him. Right. And so, yes, that was a failure on that particular day, but the learning that he took away from it and the guidepost that he planted, he came back Sunday and crushed everybody. But even more so, like now we can go, hey, remember Hawaii a couple of years ago? Yeah. Remember what happened on that rope climb? And he's instantly back to that place of like, okay, now I know how to handle failure.
He's lucky to have you, man, because I didn't have that until, I don't even know, maybe 6-7 years ago. I had a terrible relationship with failure. Like when I would fail, I'd be like, oh, I'm not good. I never thought, what can I learn from this? I just thought, I failed. I'm not good enough. Guess it'll never be me. And until I changed my relationship with failure, that it's not a bad thing. It's actually really not a bad thing, right? Like the quicker you fail, like, so he how old was he when that happened?
Yeah, must have been 11.
The best thing that could ever happen to him at 11, right? I mean, like the rest of his life will be better because of that failure at 11 years old than waiting until, I was 31 to have that lesson. 32,
for most of us.
Yeah, right. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Well, we're headed back to Hawaii to race again, so we'll see how it shows up this year.
You'll follow up with me on that. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, I will. And so let me, I'll kind of migrate here towards what you do with your coaching clients one-on-one and in groups, because I think there's so much power, not only in having that coach that was able to reframe your perspective on failure, or what we can do really with the synergy of a group. So here's a quick kind of story for you as a lead in. You and I were talking offline about another father-son event that I went to recently with my son. So 14-hour overnight, lots of fun stuff like ice baths and night rucks and log PT and all this kind of good stuff. Well, we 78 guys, right? So I think 39 fathers or male role models and young men. And we did the first, we got a little spin up. And then after the briefing, we did the first evolution together, as I'll call them father-son pairs. And then they split us apart. Young men went with one set of coaches. Grown men went with another set of coaches. Sun's starting to set, and we're sitting at the base of this mountain, getting ready to do a fun night ruck. And one of the instructors said, hey, before we get out on the trail, I just want to hear from the dads here. Like what brought you to this event? What caused you to want to be here and invest in your son in this way? Why are you here? And the first guy who raised his hand and started to speak started this domino effect of like, holy cow, yeah. And his comment was, I'm here to invest in my son, so he's got a head start on on learning that that I should have had. I'm investing in him as a young man. What do you expect? And he goes, but we're an hour into this thing, and I just realized uh, how much I need this
Sure.
as a grown man. How much in reality I'm here for both my son and me. So we all need that catalyst, like that wake up call, either by inspiration or desperation, they say. And the power of having that conversation that we had in a group was amazing, because he admitted it, and another guy goes, holy cow, yeah, this is why I'm in the same boat. And another guy says, yeah, because it's a physical thing, or because it's an emotional thing, or it's a trauma and a shadow work thing. So yeah, just tell that story as like a little bit of a lead into the power of men working together to better themselves. So I know you work a little bit with some exclusive one-on-one clients, but largely you love that power of group work. So tell me more about how you do that.
It's community, man. So the big, I mean, and we spoke about it off air, is like, as a young guy, right? You're part of a team, whether it's baseball, football, basketball. You're part of a team. You're doing things with your guys, and then you're in college, and whether you're in a fraternity or you just have a group of friends, you're with your guys. And then when you're in that single life, you're going out with the guys. And then all of a sudden, when you like graduate to this next phase of life and you get married, and then you have a business, it's almost like you're out on an island by yourself, and it gets super lonely. And if you're not part of a group and you're not working through struggles together, you start to internalize things, and you're going to grow in certain areas, but your growth trajectory has been stunted. So there's such a power of coming together as a group of men that are looking to do a similar thing in life. And then one, like, winning together is huge. And then struggling together, and then having other guys reach out and say, hey man, like, no, I've been there too. Don't worry. Let's figure this out together. Let's put together some action steps. Let's have accountability. Let's come back to it. And then when you see guys that were struggling now succeeding, there's nothing more rewarding than that. And when you can do that in a group, those are your new set of brothers. And like, how, like, for me, as a father of three boys, I mean, I still want a girl, but I have three boys. Being able to teach them that is like I'm doing in real life what I'm teaching them to do as brothers. So for me, that's super, super important.
Yeah, I'm 100% on the same page. I think a lot of times, we could figure ourselves out by just thinking, like I'm a caveman with a shirt on, or with shoes on, right? We're still really primal beings, and part of that primal being is we're tribal, right? And you need that tribe, and when you get separated from that tribe of men, as wonderful as the relationship is with your wife and with your children, we need these, as we're growing, we need these challenges, these hardships, these rites of passage. And then as men, we need connection, adventure, scary things, hard things together. I'm of the belief that I know you talk about midlife crisis, and my wife teases me about my midlife crisis. I think my midlife crisis is it's not the cliche stuff. It's going out and doing stuff in the mud, and the Spartan race, or the SEAL Fit event, or the 75-hour event. It's running around like throwing myself at these things, but they're only physical on the surface. It's really about that community and that brotherhood and the struggle together, because I think we're made to be tribal, and we're made to hunt and adventure. And if we don't find ways to do that productively that grow us, we'll go hunt for substance or whatever that might be. We'll go hunt for women, whatever the hunt is. Right. So let's find a good hunt.
Absolutely couldn't say that better myself.
So what are some of the, as you work with Ryan, coaching clients in these teams, in these groups, what does that look like? I know sometimes it's event based, and then what's the cadence, and how's all that look?
So our events have been stunted a little bit because of travel, and some people can, some people can't. Well, my guess is we get back to a regular schedule with that probably in 2022. That's the hope. Fingers crossed, prayers in the air for that. But what we do with our groups is we meet once a week. When typically I run multiple groups at a time, so Tuesday, Wednesdays, or Thursdays in the evening, groups between 5 and 15 guys, where we jump on a phone call. I have an entire online course that we put people through a module per week, and then we come back and we discuss that module. But then it's round robin on open stuff. I want to hear about everyone's wins, because wins give people momentum and energy to move forward, even if they're struggling. And then it's challenges. Like, what are you struggling with right now? What business struggle do you have? Right? What financial struggle may you be going through? What may be you going through with your wife or with your kids? And then are you doing things from a fitness perspective? Like, how's it going with your health? Are you taking on new challenges? Are you taking on new activities? Are you doing new events like you're doing? Or are you stagnant? So we want to make sure we're working through all those things on a regular basis.
That's really cool. I've got one coach who says wins and lessons. Everything's wins and lessons.
Yes.
And some so of one of these events I did, it's the threshold to then a mastermind group or a brotherhood, and there's that brotherhood relationship there. So one of the guys at this brotherhood, he took the spin on the wins and lessons, and he said, I may not always win, but I never fucking fail.
Yes. I love that.
I love. So when you so I love what you're doing. Quick question on schedule, right? Because we talked about the importance of family first in an annual calendar and a daily calendar, and how you dedicate your evening to your family and your young children and wife. So you're meeting in the evenings with your group of men that you coach, because it's probably after work for everybody, right? So how do we fit your coaching and their participation in coaching into the evenings and still balance family?
So you mean for them or for me, or both?
Both. Yeah.
So for me, I want to make sure I hit a certain amount of bedtimes per week, right? So for me, if 5 bedtimes a week, my wife and I have agreed that based upon what I do and the nature of how it needs to get done, there's probably going to be 2 nights where I won't be there for bedtime, and my kids know it. And by the way, on those days though, I take a chunk out of the middle of my day, 3 hours out of the middle of my day, and my kids are not in school yet. So we come home, we'll go for a run together. We'll go outside, we'll go in the back and play baseball. We'll go in the pool. So I make sure I make that connection for a chunk of time on the days in which I'm going to be coaching in the evenings. Nice. Now, for the guys that are in the program, depending upon where they are in the country, because when the time starts, a lot of times it's actually after their kids have already gone to bed. So they're able to fit it in. And I'll ask them, I'll say, can you make the sacrifice one night a week to improve the rest of your life, to improve the rest of your week, the rest of your month, the rest of your life? Because we focus on things like having date nights with your wife, like having date days with each of your kids. So that hour time they're carving out to work, in their group, they're gonna get back tenfold in their everyday lives.
Right. Planning, investing, communication, structuring it. So
Yep.
I like that sort of, hey guys, this is what's going on. This is my business. 2 nights a week, 3 hours during those days. We're going to do it earlier.
Yeah.
Just going to do it earlier.
And my kids know, I have it on the calendar. My 4-year-old knows. He goes, Daddy, tonight you have a phone call, right? And I said, yes. I said, but here's the cool part. I take it from home. So I'm like, listen, if you go to bed and you're quiet, I'll meet you upstairs afterwards. So I sneak into their room, even though my wife might not like that sometimes.
Hey, it is what it is, right? And are you so just back to the relationship side for a moment? Are you guys do weekly date night?
Yeah. So like tonight we're having it in the house, but it'll be like after the kids go to bed. Like we're literally TV off, like different part of the house. Like I'm bringing home sushi, and we can just get to connect. But then the last 2 weeks we went out to restaurants. So if we don't have outside obligations, i.e. a wedding or something like that, we do a date night once a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Love that. Okay. And so before we jump into guys that really resonate with what you're saying, that sparks something, hey, I might want to reach out to Ryan, learn more about him, see the videos, maybe get into coaching, right? And the power of accountability in that group. You described the process of holding each other to it and sharing every week wins and lessons. What are, just to kind of tap again into that pain, right? To drive that knife a little bit more. What are some of the biggest, I'm going to call them mistakes. Like, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see that bring guys into recognizing I need Ryan or somebody else as a coach?
Yeah, the worst one is when they're on the brink of divorce, when their wife's not willing to put up with it anymore. And I'm not saying she's right or she's wrong. I'm just saying they're in a really bad place. Like those are the worst phone calls that I'm on, when it's like, hey, like I'm at the point where I'll do anything. Like, that person's going to step into coaching, right? It's the worst phone call that I have to have when I do like a consult phone call. Other guys, they're not spending as much time with their kids as they like, and they don't know how to. They don't know how to because they're spending so much time at work, because they provided a certain lifestyle for their family, right? They have a nice size home. They have these cars. On the outside, everything looks good, right? They go to Hawaii, they go to wherever, the islands, and they're doing all the things that you think are like, wow, look at that family. But they're working a shit ton to be able to provide that lifestyle, and they're not spending time with their kids every single day. So when they whether it's they see me on a podcast or they see some of my videos, they're like, shit, like I'm getting to that place where my kid is 12, 13, 14, 15, and they're only going to be in the house for 2, 3, 4 more years. Like, what do I do now? And then lastly is the person, the guy who's just suffering in business. They're like, we're just not doing well right now, and I don't really know what else to do. So we have those people as well.
Yeah, and I think that, between those three things, that'll speak to a lot of people. And your videos are great. They're pretty short, but they're right to the point. And they get to these points of like where people are feeling challenged. It's fantastic when somebody can come in and go like, I'm doing well on this, and this. Now I want to get to the next level, right? Fulfillment, or just whatever that next level is to them. And that's fantastic too. But a lot of times we're reacting to, man, this doesn't feel right, or I'm heartbroken by that, or I can see, the future me in this, and I need help.
It's the pain, unfortunately, that makes most people move. The people that you just mentioned, the people that are like doing well with everything and just missing a little something, typically those are referrals from my existing clients. Those people don't find me first, in all transparency. Right? But once I work with someone like, hey man, you should speak to Ryan about this. And then we have that connection there. And honestly, that's actually fairly easy. But plugging them into a tribe fills the gap of something they've been missing. Like they're great fathers already. They're doing well with their marriage. Their business is crushing it, but they just don't have that extra thing because they're not really part of something other than their business, their family, and like their immediate family. So when you plug them into a community, then they're like, wow, I'm home. And then that's super rewarding as well.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I'll ask, as we head towards, hey, respecting your time and your date night tonight, Ryan, and how do people connect with you? My understanding is you're really not a social media guy at all, which I love that. But how does that show up in terms of business and balancing that?
So talk about coaches and mentors, right?
Yeah.
They are all over me about the fact that I don't post enough. That literally, like, I just got an email before my marketing agencies that I work with, they're like, Ryan, we tell you every damn week, you gotta do more posting. I'll be honest with you, I struggle with it because I'm very present in my life, that I hate pulling out the phone to film or whatnot. So I'm not the biggest on social media. However, I've committed to the guys that I've been working with so far that I have a private Facebook group now. And the reason why I'm doing that is I think a lot of the times when you hit these private Facebook groups, you have like an admin assistant. That's not the guy or the girl. They're the ones responding. Right. So I kind of took the oath that if I'm going to do this, I'll be the one responding. So I have a Facebook group called Ascension of the Entrepreneur, where you can literally go on Facebook, find us, we'll let you into the group. And then no matter, it's totally free. If you have any questions about anything, business, fitness, family, whatever, if it's a win, great. It'll bring up the group. If it's a challenge or a struggle, I'll get on there and I'll do feedback for you. And then the other thing is simple, my website. You can just reach out. I love connecting with people like something like this, where we get to sit face to face. I would much rather connect with people. So my website's super easy, myascensionbydesign.com. You just literally put your contact information in, and then my assistant will reach out to you and then connect us.
All right, fantastic. I appreciate that. I'll get links to all that up in the show notes for this episode. Sure. It's and it sounds to me like you're super accessible. Have a connection phone call, see if there's a mutual interest. And if so, you're accepting new clients right now?
Yeah, our next group will probably start the first week in September.
Perfect. All right. Well, is that monthly? We'll have to coordinate on when we air this.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So we typically enroll 2 groups a month.
2 groups a month. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, super appreciate your time. I know you got family stuff this evening, so I'm not going to take. I could keep you all day, driving into family, finance, and fitness. I love it. You love it. I just appreciate your time to connect. I appreciate what you're doing. From an abundance perspective, there's so much need out there for this. So, Ryan, thank you for what you're doing. I can't wait to keep in touch, see how you're going with this Ascension, and I'd love to hear and see some of the stories of the guys you're working with. And in particular, when the events start back up, I'm an event guy.
Right. So I could see on the board behind you definitely are. So I'm going to, this relationship won't end here, man. I definitely see us keeping in close contact for sure.
No, I appreciate that. And when they do come back up, beyond just this podcast of getting the word out to our tribe, love to help promote your events as well.
I appreciate you. Thanks, brother.
I appreciate you.
Awesome, man.